Hey everybody, we're really excited for this live. Nell again isn't going to be able to make it today, and she just had a really tough day, so please excuse her. She gives all of our love to you, um, and we are going to introduce. Is it Judy?
Yep.
Yep,
Yeah, Judy.
Judy. You might know her as Curly Dog. It's her username, and um, but one of the reasons why this live is so special, you guys, is Judy was the first person to follow us. Uh, regularly as we started getting started, and she has been a part of um, the lives and commenting, even the ones that you aren't able to make. You're just so apologetic, and I missed that, and so that's really meant a lot to us, and we'll talk a little bit about why that even attracted you and kind of what you've found with this community since then, and we're going to get into all that fun stuff.
Yeah.
And even though this isn't a TikTok dual live, this is being recorded, and we'll be uploading this to our YouTube as well. So with that, why don't you take us back, at least for now, before we get into any of the conditions that you kind of live with and things. Um, and some of this will be even new information to me. But what were some of the things that had happened that that you stumbled on us? Kind of talk to how did you start following us, and what was kind of going on there that made you interested in that.
Yeah, honestly, it's really funny because, like I said, I am not at all a technical person. I'm not really one to go online a lot or make videos, which is exactly why I don't have enough followers to go live on TikTok because I only honestly make videos that are or postings that are really important to me. So, like one of the first videos I made um, was for a little girl, Amaya, who has brain cancer. And then
Mm-hmm.
not long into that one, when I saw a post about Nell, that. And then from there, it just goes my family, things like that. But the kids kept telling me about TikTok and, oh, you should go on TikTok and it's fun. And so I did. I went on TikTok and I was, home alone a lot because my sweet my better half
Mm-hmm.
was deployed in
Oh,
Afghanistan.
that's right.
Yeah, yeah. So I was home, a lot, all the time. So I'm glad I went on TikTok and I happened to see. I think the first post I saw from you was about the turn TikTok purple,
Oh,
and
okay.
that was one of the first videos that I made because
Oh.
I just relate to chronic pain and having issues. And it's funny because I never really talked about those things or talk about those things to people. I really don't bring it up. I don't bring it up to my friends. I just really don't discuss it because, people, they have a lot of opinions about certain things or so I just don't discuss most of those health aspects with friends, and I don't bring it up to my family a lot just because, as you know, it can be very stressful for people.
So
Knowing
you
what
was
you're.
part of the collaboration video for those that aren't familiar with that. And if you click on the link in our bio, you can, or if you're on our YouTube page when you're watching this, there's a collaboration video that's there, and that was a compilation of a lot of different, friends and family that kind of came together to kind of put that all as we were talking about increasing.
That was amazing too, and that was funny also because me not being technical and me not really liking to be on camera. I mean, I think it took me 2 hours to make that video. I was driving the kids crazy because I kept, no, not that, not that. I kept making them go back and redo it. That was crazy, but I'm glad I did that. But
I
yeah,
think that your dog probably helped with some of it, right? A little comfort there, wasn't it?
that, and what's funny? You mentioned the dog. She just walked over here and started wanted me to pet her. But yeah,
Yeah.
that's I finally the dog up and was holding her, and it like calmed me down. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So
Well,
that's really how it all started. I saw that term TikTok purple and read a little bit about, Nell, and that's just how it started. I think it's amazing platform for people, to have other people to talk to and relate to, and
yeah.
that don't feel judged or you're crazy, or
Yeah.
you don't look sick, so you look like you're fine. That whole thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because ever since then, even though we haven't, obviously met in person or even just, remotely like this, we've been in contact and we've been friends, and Nell and I just know you and you've just been part of the team kind of a thing, and we just hadn't gotten around to getting you scheduled, and I can't remember all of the reasons why we've had to kind of push it off, but we finally was able to get you, so.
Yeah. I'm glad. Yeah, things have just been, just like with your situation and Nell's situation. It's
Yeah.
just been crazy with stuff that I'm go through.
Yeah.
Off and on. Been in the hospital a few times, like back and forth. Had some procedures done outpatient, like back and forth. Just so like that's how I miss lives too. Like
Yeah.
if I'm in the hospital or connections and things like that. I always go back and watch them on YouTube, of course, but I like to watch the lives and interact. But
Yeah, and I think that's so
funny.
cool because, as our following kind of increases out on YouTube, I mean, some people will go out there and the views are increasing, but wow, I mean, you just go out, even, like you said, even if you weren't there, you go and watch it, and I think that you're a testimony in that even though we're talking about similar subjects, there's so much that you gain when you listen to just that individual person's story, and
Yes.
and there's been just so much diversity, right, from each of them, and so I'm glad that they continue to help you, right, and that it doesn't turn into a well, watch one interview and you've seen them all kind of a thing. It's certainly not that, right, which is exciting.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely not. Everyone is very, it's very diverse and very different. Yeah, I love it. I think it's great what you guys have done. It's amazing.
Oh, thank you so much. And we've interestingly enough have Laura Lingle here. She was one of our first ones that we've interviewed. So we've got couple of firsts in the house, and as you guys join here on the live, I see your comments. I might not be able to respond to each of them, but it's a good way to communicate and kind of connect. It influences the conversation sometimes. If I'm not already following you, I will after words. And if you're interested in being scheduled for an interview, then send me a message, and we'd love to have you. Um, but yeah, let's see. We've got just existing. Happy Thursday. Yeah, you've been a good week. It has been a good week. I appreciate you sending that to me, my friend, and coming on here and being with Judy and I. Well, I don't want to take too much more kind of introducing. Why don't you take us back however long you're comfortable to talk about, kind of your own conditions, because you said that when we had the idea of turning TikTok purple and pulling people together because we seen that there was a need for more communication, conversation about, these things, it just, rang true to you, right? It spoke to you, and a lot of it just kind of happened naturally with you and others coming together. Um, but there's a side story behind that in terms of what even caused you to be in that space, right? Whereas you very well could have just been, any good person in the world that maybe has heard about it here and there, and maybe they know somebody, and then just kind of, moved on to the next, live of interest. So what was it that kind of, what is your background been that of what you live with, where that's, caused you to have kind of a special place in your heart for Spoonies?
Yeah, well, I mean, I have lived with chronic pain for many, many years. It started pretty much in my 20s. My mom had lupus and severe rheumatoid arthritis, and I started having symptoms of that. I also used to have, really severe migraine headaches, things that followed along the same pattern as my mom.
Mm-hmm.
And I finally went and got tested. I found out also that I had lupus. And from there, everything just kind of took off. I'm sorry, hold on one sec.
No, you're fine.
Sorry about that. The dog, I'm sorry, the dog dead. Oh, but now
That's
down.
okay.
But anyway, so by trade, I mean, what I did is I'm a nurse. I've, been a nurse. That's what I've always done.
Uh-huh.
So, used to dealing with doctors and their judgment and their difficulties, and, to their judgment of you. And
yeah,
even though you have like all these symptoms and, all the abnormal blood work to back it up, because especially with lupus, there's very specific blood work. And, all of mine is off the charts. And I was never seeking like pain, medicine, just
right.
saying for that. But they judge you and they just think, oh, well, that must be what you're looking for. And that was always extremely frustrating because I never went into a doctor's office asking for pain medicine ever. And I hear a lot of people talk about that, like being judged.
Yeah,
for,
you see that. Mm-hmm.
Right. So
was this recently that you started looking into that? I mean, it's not like you've experienced maybe conditions as you've been growing up. Sometimes people will talk about how they, from even birth, right? Maybe some defects or spina bifida was kind of involved. But so you didn't, you just grew up and you didn't have pain as you were growing up?
No, I mean, through like my teen years, I used to just get like really bad migraines.
Okay.
And I have insomnia, but I didn't have like any, I don't recall, like we were very active. I mean, we had horses, we were riding horses all the time. I don't recall like having any issues, but in my early 20s is when it's, started.
Oh, okay.
Like my early 20s pain and I just, kind of blew it off and ignored it. I would just keep working. I would get like horrific headaches and just push through it. Then I finally went and got tested, and I've had doctors that put me on like a ton of medication, and I never felt better. It never did anything. So then I would, stop taking it, try another doctor. What ended up ultimately happening is from the lupus, it's caused a variety of other issues. It's given me cardiac issues where I have a severe tachycardia, which is an excessive heart rate,
mm-hmm.
Which gets out of control. I'm on medication for that, but sometimes it likes to get itself out of whack.
Yeah.
That lady in the hospital. And then it's actually been more than 10 years now. I was actually at work and I had a really bad headache the day before. And all along, I've had like joint pain, different things. But I was at work and I had a really bad headache. And one of my coworkers said, "What's wrong with your eye?" I said, "What are you talking about?" I went in the bathroom and my pupil, you could not see the color of my eye. And what I mean by that is not the white part, but the color.
Yeah, it was just dilated. Your eye was dilated.
My pupil was fully dilated. And as a nurse, I was like, oh my gosh, like, what is that? So when I, talked to one of my doctor friends, they sent me to the ER right away to get an MRI. And they found out I have a significant brain aneurysm. And it was very strange. Yeah. And they're saying it's caused from the lupus. So because the aneurysm that I have, when I was diagnosed with it, it's common in people like in their 70s and 80s, which I was less than half that age.
Mm-hmm.
So the lupus has just done so many things to me in that way. It affects, like I said,
other
the cardiac aspect. The brain aneurysm, I had a surgery called a coiling where they go in to put a coil, like a spring, a titanium spring, like inside your brain. But it didn't work for me because the aneurysm is very large. The opening to the aneurysm is very large. So the blood flow would cause the coil to go down. It wouldn't stay in place.
Okay.
So I've had that done twice actually, and unsuccessfully both times. So now I'm just kind of biding time to avoiding open brain surgery, but that's going to be what's going to happen, is that they will have to fully open from like the front of my skull down all the way to the back, because my aneurysm is like back behind my ear, like towards the base of my skull. So
Wow. And it
that
it poses a risk, right? Because it was it a brain bleed? Is that what you mean? And it could bleed again,
I
kind of.
I did not have any brain bleed. I was very lucky that somehow that my body signaled that there was a problem, because a lot of people aren't aware that they have an aneurysm and they just die,
What's an
for a bunch
aneurysm?
of
If
organs.
it's if is an aneurysm a brain bleed or no?
No, it's like a weakening in the blood vessel.
Oh,
So
okay.
the that makes like a balloon, and that balloon will burst, and then
Oh,
you have
oh, it
massive
could be
brain
a brain
bleed.
bleed. Okay, that's kind of where the real.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's the same for like people that have like aortic aneurysm, like a cardiac, and it ruptures and they die instantly. Well, same thing. I would have a massive brain bleed.
And so right now
So
you're living knowing that there's that weakness in there, and that
yes,
if you don't go and get it stabilized, however they do that, then you're at risk of having a stroke, maybe, or
I
right, or
walk around every day at a risk of it could rupture.
oh,
Um,
Judy, I'm sorry.
and, you learn to live with it. It's okay. There's, I truly know there are people that are way worse off than me. I mean, yes, I have some serious issues, but there are people worse off than me. So that's how I look at it.
It
But
still can
and
be scary though. I mean, I'm sure
oh,
that it's
it's very scary to think that anything can happen. So what ultimately happens is, like I said, thank God that my body signaled through my eye
mm-hmm.
that, because the aneurysm presses on the nerve to my left eye.
Okay.
So whenever I get like a really bad headache and I notice my pupil will start to dilate, I have to go to the hospital right away.
Oh, well,
And
that's a kind of a ironic blessing, right? It's a little bit of an
right,
alarm to
right,
kind of act on it, right?
right. Hopefully, my body will continue to do that, to signal, because through the neurosurgeon that I have, they want to try to postpone the surgery as long as they can, of course. So I get it measured. I used to have to go in and get it measured every 3 months. Then
Mm-hmm.
now it's like every 6 months I go in. So I've been very lucky that it's relatively stable. It's had like a few changes, mild changes, but if there's any big change in it, then I will have surgery right away at that time. But that kind of surgery is very risky. It's the position of it is right next to my carotid artery. So that's like a huge thing, that you could, cut the
Yeah.
carotid artery. Um,
Are the migraines associated with that, or do you think that's maybe a separate?
we have that in my family, so the doctor says it's a familial thing, but it's also related to the aneurysm, and
Okay.
it also affects my vision. Like my left eye, even with glasses or contacts, my vision is only like 20/80 in my left eye. So the nerve to my left eye is like constantly compressed because of the aneurysm. It's called third nerve palsy, is what it's actually called. Um, it affects the nerve to my left eye.
And tell us a little bit about lupus.
So there's a couple different types of lupus. You have systemic lupus, SLE, which is what I have. I also have what's called discoid lupus, which is, a lot of people have never heard of discoid lupus, but what that is that can affect your skin.
Okay.
Um, I've been really pretty lucky with that too. I've only really had one major instance where it made blotches like on my skin, which was horrible, embarrassing, because people stare at you. It was on my arms, so I would mainly wear like long sleeves. It kind of resembled kind of like psoriasis, I guess I would say, to
Oh,
give like
really?
a, yeah, but it was the discoid lupus, and I had that for like a year, and the doctor said it's stress related, like too much stress. was bringing that out.
So it's a nervous system condition that impacts skin and not
It
as much
can, yeah,
muscle,
yeah.
or
Right. So my systemic lupus, the biggest thing is that, it can cause organ failure. It causes a lot of inflammation in your body. So
okay.
like my body has like 50 times the normal amount of inflammation than what it should. So like my blood work for that is off the charts all the time. But
Oh yeah,
every
that's right. It
medication,
has a kind of reaction to its own self. I think I remember Misty Marvin, as you know, has
right,
lupus as well.
right, she does, right. So your body essentially attacks itself.
Yeah, okay, that's right.
So, right, you have all this inflammation, so it can cause, like, for me, it's caused kidney problems.
Okay.
You'll see in the news sometimes. What was that celebrity? Selena Gomez, maybe, that
Mm-hmm.
had a kidney transplant because she had lupus
Okay.
and it shut her kidneys down.
Okay.
So I'm
Um,
always like very aware of medication I take and how it's processed in your body to protect my kidneys, because my kidney function is also out of whack most of the time. And that freaks me out a little bit, because I don't want to have kidney failure. I don't want to be on dialysis. I don't want to need a, kidney transplant, all those things. So you have to protect your organs. So like it affects my heart. So I have to keep my heart regulated.
mm-hmm.
I watch what I take with my kidneys and my liver. Like, just say, like, people that want to, take Tylenol or Advil, I can't really take those things, or I have to, especially Advil or Aleve, things like that. I don't usually take those because those are processed through the liver.
Okay.
The Advil, too, is filtered through the kidneys. So, it limits, like, medication that you can take. Right, right.
Someone that's joined, one of my friends, Just Existin, is asking Judy if you either have or have you heard of vascular Ehlers-Danlos syndrome.
Yeah. Yes, I know exactly what that is. And I do not have that, but I have something called vascular collagen disorder.
So,
which
okay.
is a little bit similar,
but
okay. It's not the same.
Okay.
But that's another diagnosis that they gave me.
So
vascular.
They must have had to rule that out when they were doing the diagnosing of what it is and what it isn't, right? And it sounds like it still has to do with your veins, but just maybe a little bit different, right, than that syndrome.
Right. I mean, I honestly don't recall that I've been tested for that for a while, but I mean, I have been tested for that. And along with that, I have like rheumatoid arthritis, which is debilitating. Then you get all of them going at the same time, like going all together, it affects your joints. And
another thing that really warms my heart about having you on is that, people like posting about different things and whatever they're comfortable with, right? And you've got some posts, but unless I've overlooked it, there's not like posts where you've kind of got on and have shared your story. Sometimes people will do that, right? They'll talk about they'll maybe have a little paragraph and kind of talk about what they live with, and maybe some song and that's okay if that's not your thing. But so this might be the first time as people, especially the people that are in the community that you've gotten to know, have an opportunity to see you and hear your story, even beyond what sometimes we learn in posts. And so I think that's really exciting, right? Because I mean, obviously I knew that you must live with something, but I wouldn't be able to even get that kind of insight in just being on your page,
Right. I don't post about it. I mean, it's amazing people that share their stories and do the post. I think it's great. It's just not really me.
That's right. Yeah, that's what I mean by that.
Yeah, and I think maybe because there's always a lot of judgment by people about things. Again, they think, oh, you just feel sorry for yourself, or, there's nothing really wrong with you. It's in your head. People, they just, and, of course they're entitled to their opinions, but I just don't need that.
Yeah, it's kind of like a protective, I mean, even if that's great that you're feeling safe, you know, Nell, as you've heard Nell and I talk about how this is a safe space, but that doesn't mean that just because you put something out there, that's not going to welcome people that you're like, okay, you know, you are in the medical industry and you're a nurse, and you know, you have an opportunity to be that person, that judgmental person, that person that's questioning, you know, drug seeking, or all these kinds of things. And of course, that's not you. But when you pursued yourself, you even had, you know, an experience from medical professionals that was shocking to you, right? I mean, that was some of the first time that you ever experienced by your own people, so to speak, right?
Oh, definitely. Just even walking into a doctor to discuss what's going on with you, or say like with my aneurysm, getting a bad headache and my pupil dilating, and going to the emergency room, and they're like, well, we don't give out pain medicine. That's always one of the first things they say to you. And I'm like, I didn't ask you for pain medicine. I'm not. And unfortunately for me, because listen, I never think that people should suffer in pain. And I think pain management is very important.
Mm-hmm.
For me, I rarely take those type of medications, but that's me.
Right.
But I do have them, and I do take them. I'm not saying I don't, but I don't routinely take them. But the worst part for me is I'm allergic to most of them. So I really can't even take anything. So when they say like, well, we don't give out pain pills, well, I'm allergic to them anyway, so please don't give me any, because I'm not going to take them. But it sucks. It really sucks when they do that to you, you know.
It just goes to show that nobody, you know, there's bad apples, and even if you don't call them bad apples, even if it was just a moment of, you know, where they fell short and they need to, you know, learn differently or whatever, just goes to show that nobody's exempt from not only that kind of a reaction, but just any kind of reaction that I think people are taking into account when they're making decisions that sadly cause them to not open up, right, and to not have conversations about it. And so all the more reason why we have such respect for you and for those that come and share this, because just like there can be those circumstances in the world, there can be the exact opposite of it, right? There could be, wow, you know, I was able to reach people across the world and talk about something that I was going through for the very first time, and maybe hopefully yourself felt, you know, I can be an inspiration too. What, you know, I mean, I thought I've had to hide my whole life, right? And how, and so that's just a beautiful thing to be a part of that, and so my heart goes out to you with whatever you and everybody that shares and talks about that they've gone through those kinds of things, and it's just causes people to clam up, you know.
Right. I mean, and it really sucks because I see some posts that other people make, talking about chronic pain and pain management and the judgment and how they're treated. And I mean, that is so wrong. And I know how they've made me feel. And it's like, listen, even if I was asking for pain medicine, I mean, check my labs. I have check my medical history. I mean, I have a reason to take pain medicine. But, you know, they right away judge you. I don't know. It's crazy. I feel bad for people that, you know, really need to take it on a daily basis. I don't know. I mean, I feel like sometimes I need it on a daily basis, but for me, myself, really try not to take it, only because it scares me. Like with my liver, my kidneys, like that's the thing. It's not like, oh, it's bad for you. No, it's just like I'm afraid of poisoning my body because of the lupus and causing more problems.
So it's something, and we've talked about that over and over, and that the short version of that kind of conversation is that it's just such a personal thing between, you know, an individual and the people that, the professionals that they trust, right? And well, what are some things that you You're in the U.S., I think, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
In Florida.
Florida.
Sunny Florida.
Awesome. What are some things that you have found as you started, learning about your diagnosis that you have started doing that has helped you to cope? Because we talk a lot about coping, and anybody that watches us, they're looking for something, and
Yeah. And
and
I honestly, I feel really bad about this because people should talk about things, but for me, my personality is and I hate to use this term, but the best way to describe it for me is just suck it up and get on with it. And that's really not okay. I'm not, it's not
yeah,
okay. I should not be that
kind of
way.
like a
And
tough, right? Just like,
yeah,
hey,
and I would never, right, and I would never say that to anybody else because I know how it feels to have severe pain. And I would never say, well, suck it up, get over it. But that's what I tell myself. And I force myself, to do things that I probably shouldn't be doing. Um, you know, like always working. I recently had left working as a nurse.
mm-hmm.
So those are good changes for me. So that's helpful. But I don't know. I'm not good with. I feel bad because I'm not good with that
No,
because for me,
I think that brings up a good point because um, I think sometimes it's hard for people to know, um, especially when there's a need for people to be soft and empathetic if they've been traumatized. There's a place for that, but um, I think even those people would welcome that idea of sometimes I just need to learn how to have that discipline with myself and to be kind of firm with myself, of it what that reminds me of, because it's nothing to be embarrassed about. It's nothing for you to think that it's not a part of coping. It reminds me that when I was struggling with my OCD stuff during the years, if it wasn't for Nell and her, having moments where, if I was kind of going down a path that was going to be, an issue in terms of how I was functioning or whether something might risk a job or something, she would certainly have really good judgment of when it was like, okay, there's sitting down and there's listening to someone and there's all that, and then sometimes there's like, okay, you need to stop, and there needs to be that time, especially if you're not doing it yourself. And it's the same kind of a thing that we do with kids, right? They're not just born with discipline. And so
right,
we have
right,
to kind of, teach them, okay, you're at a point now where your discipline needs to be kicking in, so let me help you with it. And that's how we develop it. So
right,
I'm glad that you mentioned that, because there is a healthy element to that in terms of
right,
kind of taking responsibility with, okay, it's going to be constructive if I accept this, if I kind of come to terms with it. Um, I can do good with this, and I can be strong, and so
right.
that's kind of what that's maybe a little bit of a different way to kind of articulate it. But I know that as you combine that with your spirit and your heart, that's really kind of what you're meaning, right? Is
No, no, yeah, yeah, very true. Because for me, and I'm sure many people feel this way, I have horrific days. And I have days that I can barely move. I can barely walk.
yeah,
And I have pain every day. Like I don't have a day that I don't have like pain, or I don't really have a day that I feel amazing.
oh,
So for me, if I go into that rut or let it get the best of me, I would never leave my house. I would never do anything,
yeah,
so yeah, there are days that are worse than others that, yeah, I might be home more or do less, most
mm-hmm.
definitely. But for the most part, I just tell myself, come on, get up, get going. And it actually turns out to be better for me. like getting myself out of the
Yeah.
house, you know, doing things. But it's not easy. I can tell you, I could very easily fall into that pattern of, I don't feel well, I'm just going to stay home, and I could lay on my bed and rot probably for months, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, seriously, you know, it happens very easily. And I just keep telling myself, because I don't want to be in that situation, but I understand how it happens to people.
Yeah.
People say, oh, you know, I just know for me, like, if I chose to be inactive or stay home or not function because I didn't feel well, I would be home every
You would
single
get
day.
worse and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, because unfortunately there is never a day that I can say, wow, I feel great and I don't have pain. That never happens for me. So that's why I pick myself up and I
Yeah.
make myself go. And now, unfortunately, part of leaving work and whatnot is I hurt my back at work. And that's like a whole nother problem, which is how I've been in and out of the hospital the past year. I just had an outpatient procedure 3 weeks ago. Three weeks ago, I think. That's like a whole new ball of wax too, because on top of all the other issues I have, now I have, you know, problems with my back, and it's pressing on the nerve, and it's crazy. Sometimes I can't lift my foot. I have like a mild spinal cord compression. It's just like, you know, you shouldn't say this, but like, what else is gonna happen? But I just tell myself, you know, it could actually be worse. It could actually be worse.
Yeah.
It's hard to imagine, but it could be worse.
You know, we just interviewed yesterday Shelley and Will, and they were talking about their story of all of what Will went through, and my jaw was just on the ground. And as I talk with you and others, it's almost even though it's such a conversation that we're now used to, it's still just kind of sobering about how much people go through inside of themselves that for so many years people just wouldn't talk about, right? I mean, I'm talking like hundreds of years. I mean, the culture throughout the world, whether that's because it was a sign of weakness or it would jeopardize relationships. People wouldn't want to hire you. I mean, the list goes on and on of reasons of why to not make known outside of you what you're going through. And wow, we are complicated beings for one, right? I mean, it's like God kind of put this nice skin on the top, the top of it all, and we were able to interact with it and put all our clothes and makeup and all this kind of stuff. But boy, you think of all of the biology of what's under that, and then on top of that, you think at how common things are going wrong all over the place.
Yeah.
And to how people for such a long time have been able to mask that.
Right. Yeah, I'm very good at masking that, and I'll tell you partly why. My dad was an amazing man. He was a great father. He was awesome. But my dad was from that old school, like, walk it off,
yeah.
Suck it up.
Yeah.
So that's like ingrained in me. But I tell you, when I hurt my back, you know, on top of everything else happening, you know, I was by myself, home alone, you know, because that was just my situation with you know, the deployment. Like so I had no choice but to, even when I came home from the hospital and like miserable, who's gonna get up and get me a drink? Like, it's me.
Yeah.
You know, like,
yeah.
I mean, I'm lucky. I have a great family. Don't get me wrong. And if I called and said I'm having a problem over here, they would. But you know, they have their own lives and their own kids.
Yeah, there's nobody there waiting on you all the time, right? Kind of like, let me.
So I think that's why I definitely have that mentality, like, just suck it up and push through. It'll be okay, you know, and like mask things, like you said, like just cover it up, because what else can I? What else
Well,
can I do?
and I think we still have a big problem in that over 50% of the suicides are chronic pain related, but
Right.
I would imagine that it's probably been higher than that over the centuries.
Right.
Boy, it helps me to at least get a glimpse of what has gone on in those people, because the short of it is that they're like, this is going on inside of me. There's no way I could survive this life if it's known outside of me. So I guess
Yeah.
I'm gone. I can't keep it from them anymore, and I can't.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
That, yeah. Yeah. That I understand that kind of desperation and
Yeah.
feeling. I've been there. I
Where
mean,
they don't feel.
I
Yeah.
suck up every day, but I mean, I push myself. But I mean, we all. I mean, I definitely have those days. Not. I'm not saying I would do something to myself, but I mean, you have those feelings of like, is this going to be my
Yeah.
life, the rest of my
Yeah.
life? The only thing I will say is through this whole back thing is I don't ask me how I got blessed with an amazing doctor. And it's crazy because this is actually through work comp, which usually work comp is horrible and sucks, and the doctors. But I have a pain management doctor. I have a neurosurgeon, of course, because of the nerves in my back
Yeah.
and all that. A different neurosurgeon, not the one for my brain, one for my back. But this pain management doctor, I have to say, he's amazing. He's not one that just writes pills, but like when you have pain and you tell him, he understands and he gives you medication. Like it's amazing because I've never had anybody like judge me, like not judge me when I say I can barely walk. I mean, I'm using a walker. I can't walk.
Yeah.
I can't. Oh, so I don't know how I got lucky with him, but I don't take a lot of medication, but I mean, he's been great with like epidurals and nerve blocks and trigger point injections and like all that to try to get the back under control. So that was a blessing for me. Thank God. Actually, a doctor that is aggressive in treating,
Yeah.
treating it. And I was also very lucky because 3 weeks ago when I had my procedure done, I wasn't home alone, which was nice.
Oh,
because
good.
my love was here to take care of me.
Oh.
Which that's a blessing too. Like, I really appreciate having somebody. It was nice. It was nice.
Is that your husband? You're talking about your husband, your partner?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes.
What's his name?
Bjorn.
Bjorn?
Yeah, he's Swedish. Bjorn.
You know what? That's Viking. We love. I don't know if you watched Vikings, but we love that show. And there's a Bjorn in
Yeah,
there.
he's from Sweden. He's originally from Sweden. He was born in Sweden. Yeah,
I love that name. You're gonna have to go watch Vikings. It's actually one of Nell and I's favorite series.
Oh, nice.
So I think I think it's on Hulu or whatever. But anyway, you'll have to check that out because Bjorn is one of the top characters.
Oh, nice. And I have to say, I mean, I'm so lucky because he's so amazing. I mean, I always say, how do you ever put up with me and my craziness? But he's amazing. So it was nice to actually have him here because it definitely sucks for anybody who's on their own.
Yeah.
For whatever circumstance or reason.
Yeah.
I don't remember her name. Oh, the lady that was on like 2 weeks ago with the spina bifida, I think. I know she said she has somebody, but I think it seemed to me a lot of times she was on her own to do things on her own.
Mm-hmm.
And I know how that feels because I've been on my own for like 18 months dealing with all this, but I'm, to deal with that all the time. I mean,
yeah, that's a whole other world to unpack, and that people have all sorts of varying circumstances at home.
Right.
Andy with Andy's journey.
Oh, yeah, I follow Andy.
Mm-hmm. She'll be. We're interviewing her, and I think it's November, December, but she is open about the fact that, you know, she's in the home that she's in. She's not with her family. She doesn't have that support, and there's even some things that happen that make it, you know, really even add to the
Right.
pain.
Right.
And so
Yeah. Yeah, that's I love her, following her, and I feel so bad. I don't understand, because like I said, even though like my husband was at home, like I, you know, have my mom, I have my
yeah,
sisters. I'm very lucky in that aspect. But yeah, for whatever other people's circumstances are, I mean, I can't imagine trying to deal with
yeah.
everything, trying to
Which is one
hear
of the reasons last night in the live we had someone that was commenting saying, "Oh, I wish we could, you know, have your family, you know," and they felt the love that was coming from all of us and things, and it was the appropriate time to say you are family. And you know, we talk about how people are looking for something, and sometimes it's a belonging, right? You know, they want to feel loved and accepted, and kind of that family dynamic. And you know, we say, you know, family is not just blood. You know, I mean, people can feel that, you know, the family, you know, as much as we're able to, obviously with remote and stuff, but those things, especially when it's lacking and absent, um, you know, I know Heavenly Father would want that, right? He would want for people to feel, you know, however you want to think of that, adopted or whatever, but absolutely. And
Right. Well, that's the other reason I like, you know, being involved with this, is because even though I do have support, and my attitude of suck it up and get through it, I mean, I'm here to support anybody and everybody, you know,
yeah,
questions or just a check in, you know, support, whatever, because I know how people feel. I know.
yeah,
And it's hard, you know, and I understand, you know. So
yeah,
that's why I think this also, it gives people an opportunity to get support if they don't have it, or relating to people that know how they feel, you
mm-hmm.
know, how sick they feel or how much pain they're in,
They can, so
you
they
know,
can have that compassion, you know.
right. And that people relate to it. And yeah, because, you know, people just unfortunately definitely have a lot of judgment and
Yeah,
bad attitude, that, you know, like I said, well, you don't look sick, you look fine, you look okay. Well,
yeah.
don't judge it by its cover, you know. So
Do you have any kids?
no,
No kids.
no,
You got your
I
dog,
love,
right? That's your kid right
yeah,
there, right?
I love kids. It's funny because I, when I first got out of nursing school, I was a pediatric nurse, and I love kids, but for me, I just was never into having my own
Kids.
children.
Yeah.
And not only that, I was a little bit scared too, because with the lupus, the way that my lupus was, I mean, my doctor told me that I was at a very high risk, that my baby could have a lot of cardiac issues, you know, a lot of heart problems, and that really scared me too. Like
Yeah.
knowing that I knew that that could be a possibility, and the baby could need surgery or pass away. I just couldn't
Yeah,
handle
that
that.
absolutely, you know,
Taking
people.
care of that in the hospital and witnessing it and seeing it, and I just I just didn't want to do that. But I'm lucky. I have three great nieces and nephews, and they're my babies.
There you go.
And
Yeah,
yeah,
look
they're
at
my
Oprah, right? She never had kids. Look how much of a mother she is in a lot of ways to the
right.
world,
I
right? You
love
know?
kids. I love kids, but I was just not me. Like
Yeah.
I was always into working and you know, stuff like that. Like, but I do love kids, but I'm not really my jam.
No. Totally get
But
it.
at least I knew that. I mean, at least I knew, you know, that I wasn't. I would be the kind, I would definitely have to like work. Like I could, stay home mothers are amazing, because I could never do that. Like both of my sisters are stay home moms, and I'm like,
You're like,
I don't know how
how in the
to do it.
world, right? Would you ever?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, because I'm not cut out for that. I'm not.
Well, and there's, you know, there's enough for people to do to bless each other. You know, I mean, having kids and raising them is just, you know, one option that you can do in this world, right? And I mean, you're an example of that. Look how much you're involved in the people that you love's life, and so it's to be looked at as what you're doing and not what didn't happen, right? That's just another example of how you view it. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and definitely, and I have to look at it that way because, like, when I was younger, I thought for sure that, oh, maybe I would have kids because I knew I wasn't like 100%.
Yeah.
But it's a possibility. But then with like the health stuff and different things that my doctor told me, I just was like, no, I'm not gonna do that. I mean, I understand people that would take the chance, and I respect that, and I get it, and I don't have judgment about it. But for me, I just knew, like,
Yeah.
I caring for sick babies and seeing what happens, I didn't want to deal with
hard.
that.
Yeah,
I didn't want to deal with that. So it was the best decision, for me, for us. It was the best thing. So, and I have no regrets. I mean,
there you go.
None whatsoever.
Yeah. Well, it's good. I love, what you want in life, right? And people, you just have to find it out yourself. So.
Yep. Exactly.
Well, where would you like to see? I mean, if you can, what are some of the things? I mean, you've obviously been a part of, the community coming together, and a lot of people, know you, and you've made those connections and things. What are some of the things that you would hope continue to come from this? I mean, not only is this kind of an opportunity to kind of share your own story and how you've gotten involved with not just TikTok but just different people, but do you see anything that is still really lacking that we have opportunity to really talk more about or move into? Or do you feel like that if things just can kind of continue on the path that they are, that's what we're wanting? What do you...
Yeah, for me personally, I think what's happening is amazing. And for me, how like I have felt and been judged and whatnot, I just think it's amazing to have the support and to continue to support people. And when they're struggling and they feel like they're out of options or they can't continue to deal with it, just, helping to keep them strong and push through and one day at a time. And even though it's so hard, I know it's hard. I think people need that because then people, like we talked about, they do get desperate and they make desperate decisions and make a permanent decision for hopefully temporary situation.
Yeah.
And then also just supporting people that don't have good doctors or can't find a doctor and fighting for people's rights to get their medication.
Yeah, helping them kind of show them a way if they're new at it or whatever.
They get what they need, and fighting these insurance companies that you constantly have to fight with, like to get treatments, and this isn't covered and that's not covered. It's like it's so ridiculous. So
love it.
I mean, I think it's great.
Love it.
Going, but that's, like I said, how I feel. Like I'm here if anybody needs support, encouragement, if I can help anybody with anything. That's just it, because it stinks to be on your own and feel like people don't understand or you're judged because you take a medication or you have a problem. No, my problem is I have pain.
So Nell, not only was she, wanting to join, and then she, told me that she wasn't able to because she's just had a really bad day, but she's oftentimes, as able to join us in the comments. So we've got Nell in the comments, and she wanted to tell you hi, Judy. And we had Shelly and Will actually just join us in the comments. We interviewed them yesterday.
Yeah, I need to go back and watch that because I only saw a couple bits and pieces, so I need to go and watch that. We got
that on YouTube. But Nell says she's blowing kisses. And, as I always really want to kind of pause, she really takes missing these very seriously, right? I mean, sometimes people might respond, or you might think that an appropriate level of reaction to that would be, oh, it's just fine, don't worry about it, right? And then you're kind of done. But she does worry about it. She wants her people to know that this is not just, hey, she's just checked out and she, doesn't care or not making an effort. I mean, if she's missing something, it's because she's really, out, and so she loves you so much.
I totally get it, and I hope she feels better. And what I can say about that is, listening to her story and like actual nerve pain, I have regular pain, but with my back, I have like severe nerve pain, and it's unbearable.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. It's a whole different beast, I'm telling you, because my disc is pressing on the nerve bundle to my spine.
Yeah.
So I get that severe nerve pain and like nothing takes it away. So I am even more sympathetic.
Yeah.
And I can't even imagine the level in what she goes through, because I don't have it on a daily basis, but I have that, and that nerve pain, and I don't know, just that's a whole nother thing. I'm telling you, I very, very sympathetic.
Yeah,
so.
She says in caps, "I love you, lady." So she, yeah, you.
Well, I love you, and I hope you feel better. But I really feel, I when I started having that type of pain, I thought that's like a whole nother level for people if they don't have nerve pain. And let me tell you, it's like a million times worse than just a joint pain or a broken arm. I don't know. It's a million times worse.
Yeah. Well, I know that she really appreciates that. It's interesting because with her joining, not only is she in the comments, but she's able to see you on camera, right? And so it's like, there's Judy, and earlier, Nell, we were talking about how, all the guests that we have, and even those that are scheduled and that we haven't met yet, or maybe even not scheduled yet, right? Or people that are comment. I mean, all of you are so important, but there's something to be said about that first person that really stood out, that was like, I am following these people, right? And they're consistently showing up in the lives. And so, huge smile on her face, seeing you, my friend, because that just has meant the world. I mean, you were following us before we were, I think, on Good Things Utah, right? I mean, and so just being right there as we were starting to kind of formalize things, and now we're 20 plus guests into it, and 6 months later, and Curly stuff. And you'll have to forgive me if I keep calling you Curly Dog, right? Because I didn't know your name was Judy for the longest time.
I find Curly Dog. What's funny? My dog's name is Curly, and that's why I just Curly Dog.
So before I knew that your name was Judy, I mean, I don't know how many times Nell could tell you how many times as we were having the live and Nell's next to me. Oh, here's Curly Dog,
Curly Dog is totally fine, because even though that's her name, my hair is up in a bun, but my hair is crazy out of control, like a big explosion. So my hair is curly crazy.
Yeah. So your first name, in my mind, has been Curly Dog, and that's how I'm gonna.
That's fine.
But so you'll have to forgive me if I ever call you that.
Call you Curly Dog anytime. It's not a problem.
Yeah, it's kind of nostalgic, right? So you'll at least be that to some degree.
It goes along with the theme. I told you how my hair is crazy. My sister, when we were younger, she always called me Poodle Mop.
Yeah.
Poodle. So Curly Dog, Poodle, we're just sticking to the same
theme. Love it. Nell says you are at the center of our family. So you're we talked about family and how it's important for us all to have those connections where we feel like the people in our lives are even beyond just friends, right? I mean, that, and certainly that you're an example of that. I mean, when we talked about one of the first guests that we may visit once we start traveling is going to be Mandy. And I don't know if you know Mandy, but she's kind of in the Georgia area. And I would love, it gives me an excuse to come out to Florida and go to Disney World out there, my friend.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm in like the Fort Lauderdale area, so tons of stuff to do here in Miami and Los Angeles. So, well, I can tell you how much I appreciate you guys, and it was amazing finding, that I found you pop up on my page and started following you because, with my attitude of suck it up and get over it,
Yeah.
it helps you to, you realize there are so many other people. Even though I knew there was other people, it makes you think, and it's okay to talk about it. It's okay to have those bad days. So
really,
I'm really grateful for you guys. Oh yeah.
I love that. So it's coming from, so even though we're saying that kind of tough discipline, and I talked about how I've benefited from Nell doing that in the gracious way that she has when she's seen that, okay, if we don't have kind of some discipline to manage this, right, then it's out of balance the other way. But of course it's not a perfect thing, and usually people can relate to, well, growing up it was a little bit more on the liberal side where maybe someone got, they might feel like they maybe got babied a little bit too much, or it was just kind of too soft and not, and then there's others that are, the other extreme, and it doesn't sound like that was so much you, but, even to the point where people are just so hard on their kids that it could be maybe even abusive, right? Like, you're just, you're nothing unless you do this, kind of a thing. And so even if yours was somewhere, more in the middle, but even if it was a little bit on the harder, kind of like you said, pull up your bootstraps. If you found that, hey, like you're saying, maybe people are talking about there being a place where it's okay to have moments where it's like, I'm going to be a little bit softer on myself today because there's risk in being too hard on myself or pushing myself too hard, right? And then vice versa, right? You might have somebody that maybe, starts realizing that there's more that they can achieve in their life if they get a little bit more tough on themselves, and maybe they got enabled a little bit. It's a really difficult, complicated balance that I don't think any of us are perfect at. And that's what it sounds like, you're saying, and that's beautiful that you've found an influence in what you feel might have contributed to your balance.
No, definitely too, because, I'm fortunate that I do have my family and I could talk to them, but, and I'm sure you understand this, and Nell will totally understand, and other people, that you don't always want to say things or how you're feeling or elaborate because you don't want to stress other people out and you don't want other people to work.
Yeah.
So I don't really say anything to my mom.
Yeah, that's a good point. Right. Because even though the concept of talking about it, if we've all of a sudden took this conversation and all of the engagement that's happening kind of in the comments and things, right? Kind of visualize all of us being kind of in one room, right? And how good that is. Well, is that going to be good to just all of a sudden plop that in the middle of Thanksgiving dinner, with the family, and hey, we're gonna talk about chronic pain awareness, and we're gonna do it right now, Well, and
then same thing when I was on my own, like when with the deployment for so long because of COVID, it lasted a really long time to be like, well, how's everything? Is everything okay? How are you? Yeah, I'm fine. No, you're not fine. I know you're not fine. No, I'm fine. I'm good. And I mean, he knew I was full of garbage.
Yeah.
But again, like he has his own stress, and his own. So how much am I going to elaborate to him?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and also what comes to mind though is the question of how any of us get into talking about it and having it be positive when it might not be something as formal as an interview. And sometimes that communication can still happen even in Thanksgiving dinner moments and things like that, but it could be in the form of just having a warmness to that person, and genuinely ask them how they're doing, and maybe they want to share a little bit of just kind of their life, and you just listen to them for 5-10 minutes before, while something's cooking, right? Or whatever. I mean, you can have different pockets that speak volumes. It doesn't have to be, hey, let's make it formal and risk it being awkward and negative and things like that, right? And so all of us, I think, can be leaders in taking the successes that I think we're experiencing with this and lead out with some of that, and to try to exercise our own judgment in terms of where are other places in which that can be a positive thing. And then just, you might make mistakes here and there, right? You might have talked 5 minutes too long, and you got your, significant other saying, okay, shut up, we're gonna eat, or whatever. but the point.
I'm always talking too much.
But you know what I mean. I mean, and I think that that's just a beautiful thing, and I'm just seeing the chatter. I can't read all of it, but Nell's been able to be here, and she's talking to people that have come in here that have been following you, and they're sharing a little bit about what their conditions are and things like that. And so, in fact, we even had some new people that yesterday they had asked in the chat, who's that guy with that shirt, and they were talking about me. Is he a chaplain or something, And so people are just starting to get to know us, right? I mean, they don't, and so it's cool that, and they find you, and they find Misty, and they find others because they kind of see the following and who's following you and things like that. So it's pretty fun. But say Jackie, let me just read a comment here. Jackie Wilson, our friend, says, I often wonder how much forgiveness is giving in safe places when others get angry or annoyed.
People do get annoyed if you complain all the time, and they shouldn't, but they do. So that's another reason people don't talk openly. That's why this is so amazing that you guys have this, because how people feel. I know how people feel. You could talk to me about it all day long, and I'll support you and be sympathetic and encourage you.
Yes, I think that
people don't want to hear it, fortunately.
I think that we could talk all day about the examples and all the ins and outs of why people just don't want to talk about it, and what it all boils down to is we just all naturally avoid pain and gravitate to pleasure. And so you can liken that, whether that's an irritant, whether that is someone's attractive or has positive energy, whether that is I was uplifting. I mean, we can go on, but it's that pleasure pain. And so when you're able to take pain and these things that involve grief and hardship and things that do not feel, good, and we're able to talk about it where people feel good. They feel good in some way. They're not feeling, oh, this is irritating. Oh, will you shut up? Or, they're not, oh my gosh, get over yourself. I'm so annoyed, right? Or whatever that is. And so that changes the dynamic. And we can do, and that's what I'm kind of talking about, is we can do that in any setting. We can do that at a family gathering for 5 minutes, where you say, yeah, this is what I'm going through, but you know what? This is what I found has been a positive from that, and I really appreciate you asking. What about you? Just something. It doesn't have to be heavy, and the more that people, walk away from that and be like, wow, I can ironically move in that world of pain and somehow get pleasure from that. You see what I'm saying? Because people don't want to go in the world of pain and have more pain. Be more irritated, be more frustrated, be more angry, be more, So anyway, and anyway, that and you're just a beautiful example of that. Spicy, our friend is here. Let me just say, you guys, we had some technical difficulty, and I didn't even share this with Nell. We had some technical difficulty with our live yesterday. And on both my side and Shelly and Will's side, TikTok didn't record. almost a 3-hour live.
Uh,
And right now, I've got a digital camera going. I've got my screen share recording going that is going to be a kind of a backup. And so even if this was dual, if this was the dual live and that was the recording that I was go off of, and TikTok, the point is that she spent some time, because she had it recorded, and she has spent hours getting it spliced right, and she helped me work with the technology, and we were able to get her video uploaded to our YouTube channel.
Wow. Oh, wow.
So bless be her to. I said, you're an angel, you know, and she's close to Will and Shelley, but yeah, we have the video that's out there that people are already starting to watch because of that. Sometimes that happens, right? You know, so I'm gonna you know, do things that you know to prevent that, right, from happening. But she's saying it was an absolute pleasure. She loves helping in any way she can. We haven't interviewed her yet, and if she knows that she's got an open door if she ever wanted to do that. Even if some people might want to do maybe an interview, but maybe they don't want to be on video, and you know, and I'm not saying that that's necessarily her, but I'm just saying that we can adapt to whatever, you know, people. So she knows she's got an open door, so maybe we'll get her on. But just know, if you guys aren't already following her, she is absolutely amazing and is one of the leaders in the community at spicy_1c3y. And you know, I love you. That was we almost just lost the whole video, you know. So just different things like that, right? I mean, we're talking about whether that is being on a live, whether that is talking about it in a family setting, whether that is trying to create those environments where there's that positivity and that, you know, pleasure, if you will, in otherwise painful spots. And then there are what Nell had been inspired to call our business, this spoonful of sugar, because those are spoons. I don't know what her day was like in terms of whether she wasn't up to helping me salvage something like that, right? I mean, that takes a lot of spoons, right, from somebody.
Yeah.
And so that there's so many different ways to serve each other. And so you don't have to feel obligated to have, you know, we talk about the kind of posts that some people do. Keep doing your posts, right? Because that has your your personality and what you love, and that's serving, right? In terms of just kind of putting that energy out there. And
yeah, I also don't post, I'll be honest too, because of like it's funny because I really don't care what people think about me. I really don't. But like in this instance, like I almost posted when I was in the hospital 3 weeks ago, what was going on and what I was going through, and I said, no, I'm not going to do a video. I don't want anybody like with their comments or, you know, so I don't.
Well, you know what? I'll tell you, and I don't mean to like put you on the spot to like challenge you to do it, but I will say Laurel Lingle, she was, I think, the second or third person that we interviewed, and she didn't have any posts, and she talked about how this has been part of her kind of opening up a little bit, right? In terms of feeling better about something. And she at least chose to take that and post more. And so she did some posting, and there's more pictures of her and stuff like that. Yeah. And I'm not saying that that's what it has to be in order for it to be a positive thing, but it shows that we're influencing each other, you know?
Yeah.
And to your point, whether that is, wow, you know, Judy was talking about, and Rec, they were talking about finding that balance. And Judy said some things in terms of I would never get out of the house, even if I was capable of it, right? We're not talking about like the Nell situation with the CRPS when she's just not able to, you know, but we're talking about situations where even if you have chronic pain, that there is that potential to be like, okay, I'm going to go to the store, or I'm going to do, whatever it is, or I'm going to, and when you otherwise, could. And that could bring truth to them, right? In terms of influencing them, if they feel that that's the balance that's needed, is to kind of be a little bit more tough on themselves. It could be that what they take from that is, what? I am really imbalanced in the being, nice to myself. I'm beating myself up. I'm being just ripping myself apart. And wow, I felt maybe for the first time that I was giving myself permission to just not have to be that person that's like, all right, just buck it up. Maybe in that moment, it's like, you know what? I'm just not okay, and that's okay. And I'm just going to take care of myself tonight with some ice cream or something,
So. Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, and I definitely, for me, I mean, we all have our own issues but I mean, I definitely, I feel blessed. I mean, yes, I have some things going on, and I do have chronic pain, and things flare up.
Yeah.
But compared to a lot of people, I'm very fortunate. So, that's why I'm saying, me saying, suck it up, get out of the house. I'm in no way implying that to other people.
Sure.
Because I have those days where I know you just can't do it.
Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah.
I get it. So I don't want anybody to think that
No. And we
spent
and earlier in our video, and if you didn't hear all the context of what Judy and I were talking about, we're basically talking about finding that balance, that and that's what I mean by that, is that when we're putting out there, whether it's because we got this from our upbringing, or whether someone in our family or friends, usually as we go through life, we're dealing with a little imbalance, right? Nobody just walks through life and they're just perfectly balanced with all these principles, right? And so that's all we're talking about, is that you're the best judge. Inside yourself whether the best adjustment for you as you give yourself, self-love, is to maybe be a little bit more firm in an area, or maybe to be a little bit more tender to yourself. It's a balancing act.
Definitely. Because I'm definitely that suck it up person. That's totally me. But I have those days where I don't leave the house, and I do have days that I take pain medication. So I just don't want anybody to think that I'm like, oh, get over it. Definitely not.
Yeah.
Because I know how people feel.
I don't think anybody is taking that at all. No.
Because but I do know that I am fortunate, even with my issues. I know there's people that are like a million times worse than me, and that's how I get through it too.
Yeah.
That it's hard to believe that things can be worse, but it can be worse.
Yeah.
So that's,
Well, and it's like, define worse, right? Because we've kind of been, developed or been blessed with what we were able to cope with, our stuff, right? And so, someone, might be viewed as, oh, they just got that, really, really, really worse, but they, at the same time, they're also probably just better at coping with their own stuff, right? So again, a balance, right? Acknowledging, hey, people have it worse, but at the same time kind of being grateful, because the people that we think maybe have it really, really worse, they're also going to be blessed, in ways to kind of help with that we, can't really understand,
Right.
You got Misty Marvin. I know that we talked about, we've been talking about lupus. Misty, welcome. You guys know Misty. She's part of Spoonful of Sugar, or VP of Ops. So good to see you hopping in here, my friend. You're also chatting with Nell in there, as I see. But yeah, Nell wasn't able to join us, and so you get my ugly mug, today. But yeah, she sends her love to all of you guys. Well, what else do you got? We're almost at, we got about 5 minutes ish until it's about an hour and a half, and we don't want to have it go too long, and you got to get to bed and things. What else did you want to kind of say in closing, right? Some people are learning about you for the first time. This is going to be recorded. What is it that you would say to those people, especially those people that are maybe starting this journey, for they're new to it, and what would you say to them?
Well, anybody starting out or having some kind of symptoms or, pain and problems that you don't understand, don't let your doctor blow you off. If you don't click with somebody or they write you off, I don't care if you have to get 20 opinions, until you find the right doctor, because they are out there. But unfortunately, they are definitely hard to find for some people.
Be your own self-advocate, for sure.
And no matter what the symptom is, because I'm not going to get us off track, but even like, my dad had a lot of symptoms and his doctor kept blowing him off, and my dad died 16 months later because he was ignored, and not listened to. So just anything, don't let anybody blow you off or try to tell you you're crazy, it's in your head, or, just lose weight and you'll be better. And listen, we all know weight loss makes people better, but I mean, it doesn't cure everything. So I'm just like, if you feel something is wrong with you, I would definitely pursue it, and get everything checked out, and be on this platform, because it's great to have, the support and other people that, can relate to you and support you and not judge you. Because, like we talked about, I've been judged, been there, done that. I've been blown off too. So you're your own best advocate, and just don't let anybody, push you aside. And the only other thing, that I would say is, thank you, to you and Nell. I mean, this is amazing. I mean, I'm glad that that I joined TikTok, and you were one of the first things I saw on TikTok. So, and then seeing other people that are part of the group too, like Mandy, Andy, not Annie, just other people, and seeing, that, you're not alone. And I don't want anybody else to have struggles. I, don't want that for people, but it does make you realize, that there is support out there and people that can relate to you. So I appreciate everything that you and Nell have done. It's amazing.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much. And, like I said, I can't say enough how exciting and how much of an honor it's been to have you, and you've been in our minds and hearts as we've had these lives, because we see you and we know you in so many ways because of your comments and how engaged you've been. But boy, this has been that times 10, right? In terms of what we get. And so I think everybody can see the love that you've got for everybody that is needing some help in some way, and that
I'm here for anybody too. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, you guys, been a lot that we have unpacked today. All that we've got time for today. Watch the whole video if you're catching this, and you haven't seen the whole thing, the whole video. Give us a few days to get this uploaded to YouTube, and you can watch the whole video. Check us every Tuesday and Thursday at 6 o'clock Mountain Standard Time. If you want to have a little bit of a pre-show, if you will, Nell and I have decided to start the lives a little bit early to have it just be kind of engaging, right? So before we start the interview, starting a little bit early just to kind of have a little fun. So we're going to try that out, but the interview really starts picking up around 6 o'clock, Tuesdays and Thursdays. We're booked through about February of 2023, even with changing it to twice a week. So kind of crazy. And yeah. So it's pretty exciting, and we're just really blessed. And Judy is just an example of why we feel that way. So we feel that about with all of you. Welcome if you're new. Thanks again, Judy, so much for joining us. We'll be in touch, my friend.
Yes.
And you tell Gorn how appreciative we are of him, and maybe next time we'll be able to get him on camera as well.
Yeah, he's in Georgia. He's at a base in Georgia, so that's why. Otherwise, I would make him get on here. But yeah,
you got it.
At work. At work in Georgia. So.
When we do this next time, we'll have to get him, because we we sometimes, you know, Shelley talked yesterday about a lot of what a caretaker goes through, and that is just a whole other area of beauty in terms of what people are helping you with as you struggle with pain.
Right.
So thanks again for joining us. Thank you for those that are watching, and you guys have a great night and be good to each other. We love you so much.
Okay, bye everybody. Thank
Okay,
you.
see you guys.
Okay, bye.
Bye.